Step here down here.
Sounds good to me. Good place
We're
to
gonna get rolling, huh? It's time. We got enough people here? Okay.
He was worried about 10 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. The Metropolitan Planning Organization Board meeting of May 9th, 2024 is called to order. I remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and a video of the meeting will be available after the meeting is concluded on the county's website. At this time, I ask you all to please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
City Commissioner Scott Black,
Here.
Councilman Lance Smith, Mayor John Eric Hoover,
Here.
Commissioner Ronald E. Oakley,
Here.
Commissioner Seth Waitman,
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey, Commissioner Jack Mariano, Chairman Matt Murphy.
Here. Okay, do we have anybody signed up for public comment? Anybody wish to speak? All right, we're gonna move on to our action items then. The meeting minutes from the April 11th, 2024 MPO board meeting are not yet available and will be presented at the next MPO board meeting, which is scheduled for June 13th, 2024. We have our MPO advisory committee reports. Citizens Advisory Committee, Mr. Johnny Kors.
Good morning. Thank you. I just am going to review, I'm going to focus on one of the action items that we reviewed at the CAC. All of the other items that you will see today, the CAC saw, and they recommended to approve those items for all of the action items. The item that I want to focus on is the role of the transit providers in a potential regional MPO. And I really appreciate the CAC, the effort that they're putting into this. We did we'll call it a deep dive at the CAC meeting. They're really trying to understand the implications of each one of these decisions. And I really appreciate that. And after significant discussion, the CAC voted unanimously to recommend the transit providers on a potential regional MPO board be represented through one voting seat that would rotate through either of the three transit providers, and they also recommended that that would be a non-elected official. Like I said, there was a lot of discussion, and I really appreciate them trying to understand the implications of each one of these decisions. They know that there will be significant discussions upcoming, and again, I appreciate their efforts. Are there any questions about the discussion or anything?
Anyone? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have the Technical Advisory Committee, Mr. Clay Watkins.
Good morning, Chairman and Commission members. I too am mainly going to focus on only one item that was discussed during our meeting. Everything else was passed unanimously. The Technical Advisory Committee did have a pretty long and extensive discussion also on the same item that Johnny just spoke of, the role of the transit providers. We actually have a slightly different recommendation. Our recommendation was to provide that each of the 3 providers would have a seat. A non-elected official would that, and they would all have voting. Our concern with leaving it as a rotation of every 3 years would sort of leave Pasco out, would only have a voice when it comes to public transportation on that 3rd year instead of entirely. So that was basically all of our recommendations. See if you guys have any questions.
No?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Ms. Dacia Mitchell.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce to you our Vice Chair, Dacia Mitchell, who lives in San Antonio on this side of the county, and just really appreciate the work that she does and Brian does for this committee. So I just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I have a few quick things that I wanted to go over with you this morning. First, we did approve the 2529 tip. However, we would like to make a special note that there was an item removed from the tip, a State Road 54 lighting project that was pulled as a result of not finding an agreement between Duke Power and the county to install lighting. We would just encourage, as lighting is such a safety concern, that that item be revisited and that we come to some sort of resolution if possible to get that item back on the tip in the future. We also voted for the merger presentation, similarly to the CAC, that the rotating seat of 3 transit providers would alternate with 1-year terms. Also, an appointed, not voted for seat. In addition to that, the Orange Belt Project Trail updates. The BPAC would like to suggest that in addition to the current crossing at 54 and Trinity, that we also include the segment at 54 near the cemetery that was a mid-block push lighted crosswalk, not as an alternative route, but as an additional route to what is currently planned. And also, we spoke quite a bit about the safety of walking and biking and utilizing those crosswalks, the importance of that, and thus why we feel that the crosswalk lighted mid-block would be so important. Any questions on those items?
Sure.
Commissioner?
The 54, like, what was the impasse with Duke?
I believe that the financial responsibilities of Duke we just were not able to come to an agreement that the cost was just going to be prohibitive for putting those in. And the conversations, to my knowledge, have stopped on that, so we would like to encourage that be revisited.
Well, I'd like to see, were you involved in that?
Yeah.
I'd like to have get some details and clarity on that particular issue. When you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there would be a need for some lighting in that area too, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a critical safety issue. Any other questions?
All right,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next action items. Number 1, Tampa Bay MPO merger presentation. Ms. Tinia Gorman.
Sure. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So I want to go back before I start this conversation, this presentation, of our initial discussion that we had with the current role of transportation operators about in February when I came to you the first time. I also have Ms. Nina Elkin, the Executive Director of Go Pasco here, that will come up and say a few words after the presentation, just to kind of give you the perspective of the transit agency. So initially, when I came to the board in February of this year, we discussed the current role of transit operators on the board. I set up this slide to demonstrate how Hillsborough and Fort Pinellas has, they have transit representatives on their board. Hillsborough has 4 and Fort Pinellas has 1. They actually, on Fort Pinellas board, serves as a countywide planning authority on PSTA and the MPO board. However, Pasco MPO does not have any representative from their transit agency. So I just wanted to preface the conversation with that. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Thank you. So again, the purpose of this discussion is to have a discussion here with the MPO board, because on May 17th, we're going to go to the TMA and we're going to bring back the consensus of the Pasco MPO board on how the transit operators should sit on the regional MPO board. The goal is to clarify our position as the Pasco MPO, how the transit providers should be sitting on our potential merged MPO board. Again, this is a discussion that we will continue to have. We're going to have more discussions about who's going to be on the board. So remember, just keep that in mind. It won't get resolved in one day. And as I said before, Hillsborough Transit Authority, they have an appointed official. Go Pasco is part of the BOCC, and PSTA is an elected official on PSTA board, is voting member of the MPO board. So we come to the role of the transit provider on the merged Tampa Bay MPO. What would we like to see? The first part of the discussion is voting member or non-voting advisor. Those are the 2 categories that we are currently looking at. So just keep that as we're going along. Also, I know we might want to get down into the number and how big the board is. It's very easy to go that path, but we really want to focus on who is sitting onto the board. Yes, we can start looking at numbers, but then it gets convoluted because we don't truly know yet who is going to be sitting on the board. We haven't had our future discussions of small cities, so we want to ensure that we're keeping the discussion flowing and not get stuck too much on where the seats are. We want to just pick who is going to be on the board right now. So option A, a voting member. At a minimum, 1 public transportation operator, HART, PSTA, Go Pasco, would be a voting member of the merged MPO board. So when you have a voting member, you'd have direct public transportation operator voice. Options for the voting member would include an elected or appointed official. Again, keep that in mind. You could be appointed, but it could be elected or an appointed official. Could have 1 seat per operator on a rotating seat, followed by Go Pasco for 1 term, PSTA for 1 term, and so forth. Option B, non-voting advisor. Public transportation operators could provide a similar role to how we have Secretary Gwen. And this allows public transportation to communicate freely. There really is no sunshine. An appointed official or staff would serve in this role. 1 transit operator per county, a rotating seat, or other arrangement. So right now, the recommended action is for us to discuss each scenario and then come up with a consensus that we'll take back to the TMA board. But before we have that discussion, I'd like Nina Elkin to come up from Go Pasco to further this discussion with you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nina Elkin, Go Pasco. So after reviewing some of the presentation, we believe that each transit agency should have a representation at this TMA board, just because we know what is going on in our transit world, and we will be able to provide not only our vision, but also our projects and share with all of you or all the members in this board. And we'll have a voice in regards of our future projects. Currently, we don't have representation. HART and PSA have a representation at that board. So to me, it's like either all three are in as a board members, or we are a non-board member that have to be the three transit agencies. So we all heard at the same time. So that's my take on that. Thank you. Any questions?
I guess I have a question.
Good, Commissioner.
If we have a member on there, does that take away from our other members that we have on that MPO board?
If you put a transit member, it will reduce well, right now the discussion is how many transit members, but if you put 3 versus 1, of course, that will impact how many members are on our board.
So we can't have our number they've given us now and a person for this?
We can
also?
discuss any alternate option that you'd like to discuss. That does not mean we can't do it. We can definitely present it to the TMA, but it's left up to us to decide do we want our transit provider on there? I will say this, HART and PSTA are an authority, and currently sit on their MPO board. So therefore the likelihood of them advocating for their transit entities to be on the board will be very high.
Okay.
Sure.
Commissioner?
So, I guess for what we have before us, I'm more comfortable with option B. Mainly because we've seen just challenges around heart and turnover there. So until, Hillsborough and Pasco, those are employed positions. So if there's turnover in that spot or somebody gets promoted or what have you, I think advisory would best suit us. Because if elected's in the chair, then you're looking at four years at least of consistency. So I'm for option B.
Okay, thank you.
And option B doesn't take away from your number on the
Correct.
main board?
Still takes away, okay.
Yeah, I would lean
It's still
for
what, I'm
that.
sorry?
I'd lean for that also.
Non-voting? Is that the consensus?
Option B.
How does that fall within I guess if they're still on the board as far as sunshine, 'cause if you want to talk to people outside and they're on the board, you wouldn't really be able to, right?
With option B and non-voting, there would be
You'd
no
be fine
sunshine.
with that, but the other option, you
But
could-
option A, there would be, because you would be
Yeah,
a
okay.
board member. You'd be considered a board.
Yeah,
member.
I think I'd much rather be able to talk to them.
Yeah, they're the experts.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And as you mentioned, similar to the role of Secretary Gwynn, Secretary Gwynn's representing DOT and he's a non-voting advisor type, and so, he can talk. And so I would think that the Transit Authority, since they're part of the county, the 3 county governments, that would be a good way for them to be too with the option B. That does seem to me to be the first blush to be the best option.
I concur as well.
Okay, so.
So we don't have to vote on this today, do we? Or
Well, we want to it's not a vote that it will stand. We're not voting for it to permanently be the non-voting advisor. What we're doing is taking consensus today to bring to the TMA meeting on the 17th.
Okay.
It's a consensus.
Because
to
we have
recommend.
2 commissioners missing today, and I would
Yeah.
like to hear their input on what we're talking about.
Yes, and I did make an effort to speak with the MPO board as it relates to this, so they will be aware.
All right.
Can we have
So you
a
need-
recommended action for the
Need a motion on
consensus
that
of
then?
non-voting advisor? Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for the consensus today to make sure we have input from Commissioner Smith and Starkey and Mariano, touch base with them, but to move forward with exploring option B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, we're
And for
good.
clarity, is that the one or one, I'm sorry, never mind. One voting advisor. Got it. All right.
And that would be rotating among the 3 counties, correct? Is that how we left that too?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I just wanted to take a moment, you have in your packet, the Tampa Bay MPO policy clarification. If you guys were watching the TMA, you all were watching the TMA previously, last month, there was a discussion at the last TMA in February, there was a discussion about the two authorities, port and aviation, as it relates to if Hillsborough County contributes to the, to any of their fees or gives them any money of any kind that can support their entity. The airport does not receive any funding from Hillsborough County, but however, the port does receive a very minimal contribution of $150,000 annually to support the Port Tampa Bay for a pilot radio system. And that amounts about 0.2% of the total estimated revenues for, which totals in about 11.7% of their revenue. So I just wanted that for a point of clarity. And I wanted to make sure the board, this was on the record as it was requested from last TMA. All 3 MPOs have shared with their MPO board. Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just stay up.
I guess you can just stay right there then, huh? Draft list of project priorities.
So I have come to most of the board to discuss our 2024 list of priority projects. We have had much discussion. We came to you last month to let you know that we have developed an automated process on the list of priority projects, which is an amazing accomplishment for Pasco MPO. And now we have put that process into action. And this is our list of the 2024 priority projects. As you can see, there's quite a bit of projects that were funded. SR 52, which many of you drove down here this morning, we're almost there, fully funded. The last 2 segments on the bottom, if you can remember, last month we came to you for a letter of support to give for a mega grant that would help us move 52 along and complete it faster. Those are the last 2 segments on the bottom. We have quite a few projects that are currently underway and programs, so we're really excited about this program list and can't wait to see what is coming next. Of course, our #1 priority is 4154. We truly believe as a county that is very important. Also, as we are working with FTE and the county to widen veterans in 54. So having 41 and 54 also that interchange built, that would be a great installment to the 54 improvements. We already have the DDI, so hopefully when all this gets done, we'll be able to flow through that whole corridor with no issues. As you can see, #2 is also of importance to us. It was taken out of the last work program due to fiscal constraints, but however, we are requesting it as #2 because we want to make sure that the southbound distributor is also have ingress and egress for emergency vehicles. So that's super important to safety. And this year we have a new addition that we're really proud of. We are helping to allocate $1.5 million to Go Pasco to support their bus fleet and also supporting the ADA bus stops. So we are truly trying to help move people and not cars. We know we still have to move cars, but this is just one step closer to that vision that we have of Pasco, moving people around. So we're really excited to have that on our list. As you guys can see, we have on the east side, we have Geiger Road safety improvements. We've been working extremely hard with the city of Zephyr Hills to accomplish this project. They will have a full depth road reclamation completed by the county in the next fiscal year coming up, starting October 1. And then the MPO will support and put safety projects on safety improvements on there as we go through the project. A couple other highlights, of course, we know Rangeland Extension. That is a big highlight for us here. We know we have to build the road before we can get that interchange. So we're very happy to support that project. We also have Sun Lake Boulevard. That's another key highlight. North of Bud Bexley to South Angeline property line. We want to make sure we're helping to support close that gap. And then subsequently thereafter, we have all of our 301 projects. I won't bore you too much to death with all of the intricacies of our projects, but as you can see, we're going through and we're making sure that a lot of our bigger projects, smaller projects are floating to the top. We know our bigger projects will be taken care of, but we want to start turning that dirt and showing that we're making headway with these list of priority projects. And then we come to our sidewalks, Wire Road and Curly. I know Commissioner Waitman and I spoke about this. This really supports even though this isn't in his district, but a lot of the children from his district go to the schools that are nearby there. So we're very happy to be supporting this project by way of the county as well. So I won't take up too much of your time. I know we've reviewed this quite a bit, but if there's questions, comments, or concerns, anything, any consternations, heartburn, you can let me know.
Can you go back to the sidewalk slide? You said wire,
Oh,
you say
sorry.
wells.
Because it's broken into two segments, SR 54 to Wells Road. and
Curly
then
South,
Wells-
that's wells, okay. Wire
Yeah.
roads, okay.
Yep,
All right.
You got it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? You're still going. Good.
You stop me, you stop me.
I understand, on the first slide, I understand that the Swanee Way intersection will now be, instead of a roundabout, that it's going, from what I'm hearing from our legislative delegation, it's instead going to be a signaled intersection, that there's going to be some land acquisition to straighten out the St. Joe Road intersection.
I believe that's still going to be a roundabout, but they're working on, no, it is going to be an intersection. Okay, it will now be an intersection, I do apologize.
I'd heard that earlier this year from our legislative delegation that had been changed, so.
I will update that, and it will be reflected.
Okay, go ahead and continue.
No, you're fine. Did you want to discuss?
Well, there's one that I know on the list is our multi-path on Grand Boulevard. I know we're starting some of it with incorporating the new fire station from Marine Parkway to Gulf, but then we still have the whole rest of the way down to Main Street, and I see it's unfunded. Is there something we need to do to get that moved along on the list at all? There's something we're lacking.
I believe that we just have to present it for one of the projects of interest in the next call for projects. And we'll get, see what you have done so far as if there's any P&E, any design, and you can go through the SU process and achieve federal and state funds, if that's what you're looking to do. It's all left for the call for projects. That's how we take in the projects, so.
Okay. Anyone? All right.
All right, seems like I got off the hook easy. All right, well, we will do a motion to adopt the draft 2024 list of priority projects.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, good to go. All right. All right, moving on to draft MPO fiscal year 2025-29 Transportation Improvement Program. Mr. Scott Ferry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Before you in your packet is the MPO's draft fiscal year 2025 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. The MPO's TIP is updated on an annual basis, and the TIP is a 5-year schedule and program of federally and state-funded transportation improvement projects in Pasco County. So in that regard, the TIP differs from the MPO's other key planning products in that this is a funding document and not a planning document. The TIP reflects the MPO's short-term transportation improvement project funding priorities, and again, it's one of the MPO's core products. The TIP is developed by the MPO in coordination with the Florida DOT, the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, Go Pasco, and the 7 local units of government in Pasco County. And projects in the TIP are primarily determined through the application of the MPO's data-driven project prioritization, scoring, and ranking methodology, which is contained through the LOP, which Tania just finished presenting to you. The TIP project reflects the draft TIP that's before you reflects the project priorities that this board adopted at your board meeting last June. And it also reflects the project priorities of the Florida DOT as reflected in their 5-year fiscal year 25 through 29 draft work program. It also reflects regional priorities as established through regional cooperation through other regional MPOs. This is a quick illustration to help you understand how projects flow through the MPO's work program. Projects begin with they begin in the MPO's long-range transportation plan, which we are currently working to update. They begin through the needs list, and then they filter down into the MPO's list of project priorities, which is then provided to the Florida DOT to build their tentative work program every year, and then those projects then filter into the MPO's TIP. This is just a quick highlight of some of the funding amounts that are in this draft TIP. There is $212 million that is provided for roadway capacity. There is $124 million that is provided for resurfacing, $31 million for bicycle and pedestrian improvements, $54 million for transit operations and improvements. There is $1 million for safety improvements, and there's $5 million for MPO planning efforts. This is a highlight of some of the new major capacity project additions in this TIP document. There is a new project to fund $10 million of right-of-way acquisition for US 31 from south of State Route 56 to south of State Route 39. And there is also $4.4 million that's being used to fund right-of-way acquisition for the widening of Old Pasco Road from County Route 54 to north of Sunny Drive. And there's also $11.7 million that is being added to this draft tip for construction funding for that roadway improvement project in fiscal year 2028. A few of the bicycle and pedestrian improvement projects that are being added into this TIP. There is $4.4 million that is being provided to construct a bicycle and pedestrian path on Perrin Ranch Road in the Newport Richey area. There is also $675,000 that's being used to fund a sidewalk in the Pasco Elementary School area. And there is $510,000 for design and $4.6 million for construction of various pedestrian crossings along US 19. The anticipated adoption date of this draft TIP is June the 13th. The effective adoption date anticipated is July the 1st. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. May I ask for a motion to approve?
Sorry, apologize.
That's okay.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Oh, good, thank you. Sorry about that. I was moving on. All right, let's see. Next up, we have a consolidated planning grant. Miss Laura, I'm even gonna try it.
Shadiger. Lori Shadiger. Good morning.
Morning.
I am seeking your approval for the new consolidated planning grant for the fiscal years of 25 through 2026. These funds are utilized by the MPO for the implementation of the transportation-related planning activities outlined in our Unified Planning Work Program, also known as the UPWP. Thank you for your consideration.
Any questions? No. We good? All right. We get a move approval?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, Pasco County MPO Organization Final Unified Planning Work Program.
You're going to hear a lot of me today, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's the end of the year. So every year we come before you, every 2 years we come before the MPO board to update our Unified Planning Work Program. It is the 2-year budget that the MPO completes and updates and tells the federal government and state what our plans and programs are for the next 2 years. Our budget is currently a little over $3.1 million. As Lori spoke previously, we de-obligated about $1 million to roll into this first year. We have a lot of planning and programming to do over these next 2 years. You're going to see a lot of different items come before you. We plan on conducting a freight plan, sub-area analysis. We'd like to do a sidewalk gap plan and program. We're looking at an ADA compliance plan. We have several plans and programs that we want to get done and make sure that we're doing it. It also includes our payroll and our office supplies. Remember, the MPO is 100% grant funded, so everything we do it through our grant. So this is a massive undertaking. The staff did amazing. I'd like to thank them for our help. We revamped the entire process this year, even with less staff than we normally have. So we are now in a much better place moving forward. So I ask you to review and approve the Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal year 25 and 26.
Good.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right, new members appointment for MPO Technical Advisory Committee. Mr. Scott Ferry.
The Pasco MPO staff recommends the approval of Mr. Brian Caligari to serve as a regular member and Mr. Troy Sweat to serve as an alternate member of the Pasco MPO Technical Advisory Committee. Mr. Caligari is an operations specialist with the Transportation Services at the Pasco County School System, and Mr. Sweat was recently appointed as a project manager for the city of Dade City. The MPO TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, also recommends the appointment of these two individuals to the committee.
Anyone have any questions on these individuals?
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, takes care of our action items. We do have one presentation on the agenda. Innovate Pasco 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan Project Update and Needs Plan Development Overview. Ms. Allison Fluit? I knew I'd get it wrong.
Everyone does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to provide you an update with where things are with our long-range transportation plan development and share with you where we have gone with the development of our roadway needs plan. Got it. So just to provide you a status update on our project progress, we have, since the last time I spoke with this group, made some progress in the development of our needs plan. That has also led to some of the initiation of our project prioritization process. We're focusing on our roadway projects, specifically with that project prioritization. I mentioned the last time we've already completed our revenue analysis development, so that's something that we'll have ready to support us as we move into the development of our cost feasible plan once we've kind of nailed down this recommendation section. But a lot of what we have been doing since the last time that we spoke with this group has been focused on public engagement. So specifically, we have been reaching out to stakeholders across the county and also members of the general public. So that has included outreach to folks like chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs, neighborhood associations, as well as presentations, obviously, to this group. We've had specific stakeholder meetings with representatives from county staff, as well as some of our municipalities from the western and eastern sides of the county. Our community workshops, our outward-facing, publicly invited workshops, took place in late April, the 23rd and 24th. The intent of those was to start getting eyes on our first draft of our roadway needs plan. But through all of these, this has been a very dynamic process. We've continued to have this evolve based on comments that we're receiving. So what you're looking at is even building on some of the feedback that we've gotten to date. We're excited that we're going to be launching an online complement to some of those in-person public workshops that we had as well. That's going to be something that happens this week. And then we are going to be continuing some of our stakeholder outreach over the next week as well, with an additional meeting with county staff. We've had some prior conversations with Go Pasco, but those conversations will be continuing next week as well. And then we'll be back in front of you all in June for your next update. But I did want to provide a little bit of an update on kind of where we stand in moving from the needs plan into ultimately the cost feasible plan. And then most of our time today will be spent looking at the roadway needs plan itself. So during the last time I spoke with this group, we focused on the parts and pieces that were needed to get us to kind of the beginnings of that roadway needs plan. And we're focusing right now on the roadway needs plan specifically, but there will also be a bicycle and pedestrian needs plan and a transit needs plan. Both of those are in different stages of development, but we do find it useful to kind of lead with the roadway needs plan because we know that a lot of what we're doing with some of our other travel modes is going to be responsive to some of the things that we see in those roadway recommendations. So it's important for us to make sure that we have those unconstrained recommendations for our roadways. From there, we're going to move into project prioritization. That's an important step for us, obviously, as we start to understand what we're seeing from all of these different quantitative pieces of information that we have that kind of harken back to the goals and objectives that we spoke to you about several months ago toward the inception of this process. And then finally, resulting in our cost feasible plan, where we take those project priorities, match them up against our available revenues, and that's where we're going to arrive at that cost feasible plan that takes us all the way out through 2050. So now we'll get on to kind of the main event here, which is the roadway needs plan itself. So one of the things that we obviously do is we want to take a look at the 2045 plan. That's our starting point. And then we look at other plans that have been undertaken since then. We pull in some of those tools like the travel demand model and our available safety data, and then information like our stakeholder and public feedback. We're also looking for segment continuity. We want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. If we have 4 lanes on 2 sides of a roadway segment, we have 2 lanes in the middle. Even if our data is not necessarily saying, hey, this has to get there, we don't want to create a bottleneck problem in the future. So that's something that we were trying to avoid. So just to show you a little bit of a comparison, we did look with our new travel demand model data to make sure that we weren't kind of overestimating on some of our roadways. There were 13 corridor segments where we actually did remove a recommendation from what we had seen on the 2045 plan. For those of y'all that are looking at your tables, you can see all of those removals down at the very end of your table. They're on the final page of that table. Just to kind of take a look at those if you're interested. Those all had lower congestion levels than what perhaps they were showing in the previous plan. So that's just something to kind of note there. But we also had quite a few segments that were added. And these were places where we may be seeing higher congestion levels that were expected as compared to the last plan, or that we saw safety issues that were kind of manifesting themselves. And this is where I want to give a shout out to the safety action plan that the county is getting ready to commence, because this is a really nice place for us to kind of start that process of studying what some of the safety needs are. And then that plan is going to pick up where the LRTP leaves off and gets into a lot more detail and has a lot more opportunity to really dig into what some of those recommendations can be. And so we do have 28 corridors that were added. And then we had 2 corridors that were modified. And what that means is that there was already an improvement included, but we actually looked at changing that project. And ultimately what both of those were continuity changes, so Overpass Road and Suncoast Parkway, just kind of making sure that we had a consistent cross-section across both of those roads. So now we'll kind of move into the map itself, and I just want to kind of point out a couple of highlights as we go through a tour. And I realize that this is kind of small, so we also have some large format roll plot maps that Scott has. And he's going to, I think, hand those out to y'all as well if you want to take a look at those, or you can obviously continue to refer to the screen. But as he does so, I am going to maybe just highlight a couple of things, and certainly I'm happy for anybody to interject with questions as we go. You will see that many, and in fact most of our recommendations are going to look very familiar to you. We carried many things forward. There were needs that had been demonstrated in prior planning efforts. Those same needs were kind of conveyed forward again. So, great example would be Sun Lake Boulevard. Places like Sun Lake Boulevard, Ridge Road, Rangeland, and Tower Road. You're going to continue to see those recommendations out there, with Sun Lake Boulevard as a 4-lane divided section, Ridge Road continuing out as a 4-lane divided, and then Rangeland and Tower having a couple of sections in there proposed as a 4-lane, and then the US 41 to Erin cutoff as a 2-lane section for Rangeland and Tower. So other things that are kind of notable, I'll just point out a few particular facilities, and you all are welcome to ask any questions that you may have as well. We do have a series of recommendations on SR 54 and on 52 as well. On 54, we have our 4-lane widening on a section of that between Morris Bridge and US 301. Something that is new is we've actually added corridor improvements, and that may help me just kind of orient you to some of the different facility types that you're seeing there. Corridor improvements is something that's a newer designation here, and this really stems specifically from that safety data that we were looking at. So you may see some of those diamond intersections. Those are all safety-related intersection issues that we saw. And if you see those green dashed roads, those are corridor improvements, and those are all related to safety. So these are safety issues that we saw that kind of went beyond that intersection level to an entire corridor level. The biggest one that I think is easiest to see on the map is US 19. The entirety of US 19 is highlighted for corridor improvements, and those are really focused on safety. So as I said, that kind of goes beyond a particular intersection to just highlight that we need to look at that as a section. You can see kind of the differentiation between some of our widenings and new locations there. I'll also just point out a few of the new interchanges. There are only 3 that are highlighted on the map. They should look familiar to you. One of them is on Suncoast Parkway. And then we have 2 on 54. One of these is already included in the CIS at 54 and 41, and the 54 and Collier Parkway is something that the MPO actually recently had a conversation with FDOT about. We know that that's being looked at minimum as an intersection improvement, and it's kind of being thought about as kind of a long-term need. So the idea here in showing it as an interchange is that there may be a desire for that. That was something that was talked about in the past. We can kind of put that as perhaps a little bit more of an aggressive intent if the need demonstrates itself kind of going forward. So that was the rationale that you'll see for that. So just highlighting a couple of other corridors of note. We also had some of those corridor improvements on a small couple sections of US 301 up in the northern portions, one in Dade City, one north of Dade City, kind of looking up on the US 98 section as well. And also the widening of US 301 down on its southern side from 56 to 39. You'll see widening on Morris Bridge and Chancey Road, just to kind of point out some of the things that are in this side of the county. Those are conveyed forward from recommendations that were in the 2045 plan. We still have the widening a new location on Overpass Road. I just wanted to point that out as the Old Pasco to Old Bridge section is being shown as a 6-lane, and then the Handcart Road to Fort King is a 4-lane section. And then just one other that I kind of picked out of interest is Old Lakeland Road from County Road 54 to the 98 bypass. I did want to point that out as a 4-lane road, and that kind of continues the section that we have on Chancey. So that's my very brief and quick tour of some of the recommendations across the county. Again, this is something that we invite you all to look at, ask any questions at this time that you may have. This is also information that is going to be provided in the public online forum that is going to be going live hopefully today. There's actually going to be an interactive map where folks can go and look at these different things and see those attributes that are being recommended. And there's a comment form where if they have any thoughts that they want to provide us, suggestions that they may want to see, that they're going to be able to offer those up. So that's also a great tool for you all if you want to be able to kind of zoom in and look at something in more detail. So with that, I will just pause. I have one slide after all this, but I did want to see if there were any questions at this juncture.
Any other questions? I have one.
Please.
Along US 19, it says corridor safety improvements. Pretty much looks like all of 19. Can you give me an example of what you're talking about there?
Absolutely, yes. So those corridor safety improvements that we're talking about for US 19 are exclusively going to be focused on safety improvements. So examples of what that could mean take many different forms. We could be talking about offset turn lanes to improve sight distance at a particular intersection. We could be talking about pedestrian and bicycle safety, where we see that being a problem, where maybe it's addition of crosswalks or better signing and striping at a particular location. It could be even looking at driveway closures in certain locations if we see that turning conflicts are going to be a problem, or median installation where there may not be one currently. So anything where we kind of see those conflicts presenting themselves that we can look to reduce those conflict points would be something that falls within that realm of a corridor improvement. And again, that's something that with the County Safety Action Plan is going to be able to be dug into in a lot more detail. And it also builds on some of the work that the state is already kind of looking at on 19.
Do signal timings come into play in that at all? Or?
Yes, it can do so, absolutely, because if you're reducing some of that unexpected stopping, that can help, for sure.
Thank you.
Excuse me, did you want this to be received and filed into the record? Yes?
We do.
Need a motion to receive and file.
Move to receive and file for the record.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
You did have,
One final slide,
okay.
just to highlight our next steps. There it goes. All right, so our next steps are to finalize our roadway plan. We'll be doing that following this additional feedback that we'll be receiving from our stakeholders as well as the public process. We are, as I mentioned, in development of our bicycle and pedestrian needs plan and transit needs plan. So those two things are going to be kind of coalescing as we start to finalize our roadway needs plan as well. And then finalizing that roadway project prioritization so that we can move into financially constraining our planning process. So as we come back to you all in June, we will have much more to share on the prioritization and kind of moving into that cost feasible process. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, all right, we're on to other business. Of course, our next meeting will be June 13th on the west side. Does anybody have anything else for other business like to talk about?
Just appreciate Secretary Gwynn being here today.
Welcome.
Yep, thank you.
Anything you might want to add?
Good. Last call, anyone? Anyone? All right, looks like we were adjourned for today.
Very good, Mr. Chair.